Your job as a leader when you're in an organization is to make the organization successful, get everyone to work towards the mission of the organization. And I think a lot of leaders get caught up in, well, as long as I can be the best leader and do my job well, that's all that counts. But what I learned at Disney, being at the Magic Kingdom, for example, I had 12,000 employees in my organization. And if my leadership wasn't translating to our guests having great experiences with frontline employees, because that's who they talked to, the guests had no idea who I was. They didn't care who I was. All they knew was I pull up at the Auto Plaza, is this person friendly and welcoming, and do they know what they're doing? Do they park my car safely? Do they drive the tram safely and talk to me? Do they answer my questions? And you can go through the hundreds of interactions you'd have with someone in a theme park or all the employees in a theme park. If my leadership was not making that better, then I wasn't doing my job.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast. My name is Jared. I am one of the hosts here. And I'm always excited because we have so many incredible guests that we get to have a chance to chat with. And not only is that beneficial for me as getting to interview different people, but really our hope is that it's beneficial to you as well as the listener, that you are able to grow and become strong by design in every area of your life. We believe that you were created strong by design. You were created to be strong physically, to be strong mentally, and to be strong physically. And so through the various people that we get to chat with, we just trust that they're helping you grow in every one of those areas of your life. And today is no different. We have an incredible guest on our show today. This is a man who has an incredible resume. He has an incredible experience all over the world, not just in the United States, but in places like France and I'm sure other places that I just learned Australia is about to just get a huge new bump in the Australian area. So, yeah. But he's a business leader. He's a coach, and author of the book, How's the Culture in Your Kingdom? We're going to tackle that a little bit today as well. Has a podcast, at least you had a podcast. I don't know if that's continuing or not. We can discuss that a little bit later. Getting ready to be part of, I don't know if it's a launching or a boosting of a university in Australia. So many things going on. I'll introduce Dan Cockerell is on the show with us today. And so Dan, thank you so much for your willingness to come and share a little bit of your wisdom and life experience with us.
Thanks, Jared. I love doing these podcasts. It's so much fun to chat and talk about what's on people's minds and share what I can about my experiences.
Absolutely. So Dan, just kicking stuff off, we were just talking before we started recording that you're currently in this life change into a phase where I believe it's 26 years you were working with Disney. You left Disney and you're doing some consulting and coaching and business leadership stuff. But now I won't ask you how old you are because I don't think that's nice to do. Maybe it is nice. Maybe you don't care.
I don't care.
But I will say, now that you're 29 years old again, it's kind of a crazy time to be doing another life change and a life switch and moving to a completely new culture. But tell me what's going on in the life of Dan today.
Yeah. So Jared, your first point. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to see my life in very clear chapters. You don't see them while you're doing them, but you certainly see them as behind you. And the first big chapter was joining Disney right out of university. I went to Boston University and joined Disney as a frontline employee in the parking lot at Epcot, and worked there for 6 months, and then had the opportunity to go to France and open Disneyland Paris. And that was sort of the first chapter, I'd say, the first 5 years out of college living in France. And my wife, Valerie, is from France, and we both worked there. And then in 97, the next chapter, we moved to Florida, and we spent the next, 21 years working at Walt Disney World. And during that time, we raised 3 kids. Had 19 different jobs over the 26-year period with the Walt Disney Company, and just had incredible education about how to work in a world-class organization, and learning about culture, leadership, systems, design. I love design. When you design things, everything else gets easier, and we can talk more about that. And then back in 2018, our third child, Tristan, our youngest son, went off to college, and Valerie and I started talking about what the next chapter was going to be. And we decided to do one of the most scariest things in my life was leaving Disney and heading off. And we've been consulting for 5.5 years. Valerie was with Disney for 16 years, and she was a facilitator at the Disney Institute, and I had done a lot of speaking. So we created our company, and we've been doing leadership workshops, customer service, keynote speeches, consulting all over the world for the past 5.5 years. And then the next chapter came about, and I got a new job on December 1st of 2023, and I'm going to be the CEO of Torrens University, which is based in Australia. It was started about 10 years ago, and it's Australia's only investor-owned university. It's owned by an American company, Strategic Education. And there was an opportunity. The CEO there was transitioning out. She started it, and she was transitioning on, and I called someone I'd worked with previously, and it was just perfect timing. He said, Dan, I may have an opportunity for you. So that conversation was October 23rd, and I've been down twice now down there. We'll be moving there permanently in March to run this university. We both have 4-year visas, and we'll be there till the next chapter reveals itself.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's awesome. What's the focus then of the school?
Yeah, so it's a really cool school because it's 10 years old. It is very dynamic, very nimble and agile. It's got a few different schools. So it has campuses in 4 cities in Australia: Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. And they have a 5th campus in Auckland, New Zealand. And their 3 big verticals are health, business, and design. So they have a fashion design school, the Billy Blue Fashion Design School. They have the media design school that's based in Auckland that does a lot around media, video production. They have a hotel and hospitality school just outside of Sydney, Blue Mountains Hotel and Hospitality. And then they have a nursing school within Torrens. And then they offer business degrees, IT. We're starting to get into architecture. So I'm still in the big learning curve here.
Yeah.
But they're in a little bit of everything. And it's, to your point, I'll be 55 in about 2 weeks. And Valerie and I, we've always decided that whatever our age is, it doesn't matter. We're just going to treat life like we're just getting out of college, and we try to stay fit and eat right so we have enough energy to sort of do all this, because we expend a lot of energy when we make these changes. But we feel like life is short, and you got to go. Whatever diverse experiences you can get is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. How did you I know that Valerie was working at Disney, but what's the origin story there?
Yeah, so she grew up in Lyon, France, in the south of France, and when she was 16, her cousin called her and said, "Hey, I'm moving to London. Do you want to come?" And so she moved to London when she was 16 years old. She didn't speak a word of English, and she became an au pair and took care of a little boy who was a son of a backup singer in a band. And she did that for 1.5 years. And when she left London, when she was 17 and a half, she spoke perfect English and moved back to France. And one of her professors in college said, "Hey, your English is better than mine." They had this program at Walt Disney World at Epcot. There's the place called the World Showcase, and they recruit students from all over the world to represent each of the country pavilions within World Showcase. And so she went to Paris. She interviewed for that. She went over on a J1 visa and worked at the French pavilion on the fellowship program for 1 year. And at the end of that year, she traveled to Mexico and eventually made her way back to France. And then in 1991, Euro Disney was going to be opening the following year. And they went to their Rolodex and said, "Okay, let's find all the Europeans who ever worked at Disney and see if they'd like to be on the opening crew." And they called her. And she said, "Yes, I'll do it." So she moved to Florida. And after she moved to Florida, about 3 weeks later, I moved to Florida from Boston University. She lived on the third floor. I lived on the first floor, and I was doing my laundry one day, and there was this cute French girl doing her laundry. So I said hi, and that day of saying hi back in 1991 turned into our 30th. We've been married for 30 years now. So you never know.
Okay.
You never know where that next person's coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we just, my wife and I, we just celebrated 15. So we'll never catch up to you because we're always behind. But, obviously.
Hey, it's not a competition, Jared. But
oh yeah, so sorry. Here I know.
But it takes a lot of work raising kids, and we've talked a lot about that. And I think the key, well, there's no key to a totally successful marriage, but we found that you just got to overlook each other's shortfalls, and if you can do that, everything's fine.
Yeah, it's funny because my wife and I, it was our 15-year anniversary, so I'm like, well, let's go do something fun. We live in the Clearwater area anyway, but I'm like, we'll go stay on the beach. We'll do like a dinner cruise thing. We'll get out for one night. And so we did that. And when we came back, the valet came to get our car. I was up getting the rest of our bags, and the valet asked my wife. She was like, "Why are you guys here?" And she said, "Well, we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary." And her response was, "That's it?" Like, what do you mean that's it? She's like, well, my husband and I have been married for 30 years. And she's like,
good for you.
She's like, I didn't know we were competing. You asked me why we were here.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a funny, we have a lot of really fun stories that came out of that night of weird kind of quirky things that had happened, but that's what made it a lot of fun. So, and it was just good to get away. Shifting gears slightly here, we had your dad on the show a couple months ago, Lee Cockerell, and also did a lot of stuff with Disney. I was just curious, I mean, we got to know him a little bit, but are there any stories about Lee that you have growing up that you find maybe inspirational or humorous that you might want to share? Or that he would be okay with me sharing? I guess maybe that's the right question.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because when I talk to people as you get older, I said, I don't have I can't think of any childhood dysfunction I had. I mean, maybe as I get older, I'll find something, but my parents, I was an only child, and I had a great childhood. I mean, my mom and my dad worked a lot. He was traveling and working a lot. And when I got in high school, my junior and senior year of high school, he sort of made a commitment and said, I'm going to be there every weekend. I played football. And so he would go to Marriott, and he was able to get like filet mignon and these great steaks, and we'd cook them in the cafeteria at the Wooten High School. So I'd always talk to my former football teammates. They're like, man, those are the best 2 years we ever ate. It was before the games. And he really wanted to, be involved because that's what we're always worried about, right? We're working a lot, and our kids are growing up, and you blink and they're grown up, and you're like, gosh, I wish I could have done things, lived differently, maybe spent some more time. So he was really focused in on that. And
we talked about that. We talked about being his intentionality to not just be home, but to be present when you're home. Yeah. And that's something that, I push that all the time, and I'm always reharping it with myself as well. Hey, when I get home, I actually want to be there with the kids. My 12-year-old still comes up to me and asks me to play with him, and I'm like, that's not going to last forever. So I want to savor that as long as I can.
Well, I'll tell you, every time your child asks you that, you drop everything and do it, because it's a very short window of your life before they get older. The other thing I think I used as a role model for my parents, they never really told me what to do. They never told me what they're like, we expect you to, be an executive, or we expect you to go to this university. They sort of were like, you know what, we're going to expose you to lots of different things. We traveled a lot, and they would, every time I was trying to figure something out, they would present the options and really let me make the decision. And I think it's a great way. And it really, led me into doing the things I really value in life and the kind of jobs I wanted to be in. And it's a hard line to walk, because you want to, you know what's best for your kids, you think, and they don't know enough yet. And I think finding the line where you can guide them but not direct them is, and my parents did that really well. We've tried to do that with our kids.
Think about that as like like if this is my home and there's a fence around my home, and as the child gets older, like the boundaries are also, expanding.
Sure.
And so it's like you still, like when you're a baby, you have obviously no choices, right? I mean, everything has to be done for you.
Right.
But as you get older, it's like, okay, now you're 5 years old. Within these boundaries, here's where you have that freedom. And so it's always growing and we have 4 kids. So one of them, their boundary may be way out here, and their 12-year-old brother, it still may be here because he hasn't quite figured out that, the responsibility factor, whatever it might be. So, but I think I love that he gave you that opportunity to make the choice. I think that's where rebellion really hits hard when kids leave the home at 18, is because everything was decided for them.
Right.
And it's even just, I don't even know if it's intentional rebellion. Sometimes it's just curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing that I've been kept from for so long? I want to experience it, you know? And so allowing them to experience those things within the safety of this boundary that I've given them, without telling them and directing them. So we've just had this conversation literally a week ago. My wife and I have been talking about this with our kids as they get older, and wanting them to, they'll come to us sometimes and say, what do you think about this? And we just turn it back on them. Well, what do you think about this? And have those teaching moments by asking questions as opposed to giving commands.
It's a great way to do it.
Yeah. So you have, is this, I'm not sure, I'll just ask, is this your only book that you have? Is this one, or do you have multiple books?
No, that's it. How's the Culture in Your Kingdom was my one and only. It was, it's funny, the reason for writing it was, well, there's a couple. One was someone told me, if you're going to go be a consultant and speaker, you need to have a book because people are going to think you're smarter or more credible. It's, I don't know what it is about that, but if you write a book, apparently you know more. And then
all of a sudden you know stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. But the biggest reason for it was, after working at Disney for 26 years, when you're in the same culture organization for so long, you really don't know what you know anymore because everything is just so natural because the culture has kind of set the expectations for you. I compare it to, like, I heard this story once, 2 fish swim up to each other, and one's like, hey, how you doing? What do you think about the water? The other fish is like, what's water? Because you're so immersed in it, you don't even know it's there. And so when I was putting the book together, the idea I had at the beginning was, I want to write about what I know. And at first I said, well, I really don't know anything. I mean, I work at Disney, I do my stuff, but it's all part of, and then I started asking myself, well, okay, let's see, what do you know? You know how to communicate, you know how to solve problems, you know how to build relationships. And the more I did, the more I went, I realized that I had a list, and that kind of was how the chapters of the book came together.
Yeah. My wife and I are trying to write a book together too. It's funny how just trying to organize things and keep almost writing literally, it hasn't worked like we thought that it would.
Sure.
And having to go back and redo things. So, I loved just getting into the book, because there's just so many parallels with what I understand works for us, and even really the mantra of this podcast, like right out the gate. Your first 3 things out of it is your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and you called it your moral fitness, but which is really your spiritual well-being, right? I mean, that's what we're all about. Maybe let's just dive into that a little bit. Your physical well-being. What do you do? What do you suggest when it comes to maintaining health? Especially, I'll ask this question because you've probably been doing it for a while. Health and fitness, it seems to change every 5 to 10 years about what they say is good and what's right and what's healthy. So what have you done that seems to work well for you?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I'll talk about, there's 4 sections of the book: leading self, leading team, leading organization, leading change. And when we first wrote the book, the publisher said, this really feels like a self-help book. People expect a Disney management leadership book. Let's put lead self at the end, because that's, they want to hear about how you manage teams and about how you do that at Disney. And I said, that's the problem in life. Everyone puts their chapters of leading themselves and taking care of themselves at the end of their book, and they do everything else first. And I have found that when you're physically fit, you're mentally fit, you're organized, you're just a better human being. You're a better husband, wife, son, daughter, parent, employee, boss, and that it all starts with that. So that's the reason it's at the beginning. And I'm not an expert on any of this, and I know there's fads that come in and out and exercise this. At the end of the day, what I can say is do something, right? And whether you don't have to be a triathlete or marathoner, just get out and walk around the block, do some push-ups, stretch. Humans were meant to move. Evolution. Even over the past, since I was a little kid, you have to do a lot less today than you used to have to do. You don't even have to roll up a car window anymore. You just hit a button and it goes up and down. There's elevators, there's escalators. We just don't move as much. And with all the technology now, we're much more sedentary. And humans aren't supposed to be sedentary. They're supposed to be moving. They're supposed to be picking up stuff and walking and exercising. And so I don't have any specific advice for anyone, except you got to get some physical fitness in your life. And not only is it going to make you feel better and you're going to be healthier, but your quality of life later in life will be better. I think that's something we don't think much about with medicine today.
You don't when you're young, for sure.
Yeah, medicine and technology and everything is going to help us. And your kids, I mean, there's no doubt they're going to probably live past 100 by the time, because the way technology is accelerating. But how many years do you want to be living where you can't walk around or you can't get up or you're just not feeling right? And so physical fitness, you got to do something and you got to find time. And my dad talked about intentionality. It has to be part of your schedule like everything else is. Eating, exercising, taking time, meetings at work, going to your kids' sporting events or plays. Exercise should be scheduled and it should be done. And like I said, you don't have to be a world-class athlete, but you should be moving and you'll be in a lot better place.
Yeah, just mobility, right? I mean, the fact that you could do stretches, body weight stuff, it doesn't have to be super heavy things, but making sure that you're doing things to make sure you're staying mobile. My wife hurt her ankle, and it wasn't a break; it was just a very bad sprain. And
those are the worst.
Sprains it happened in August, and she's still struggling with it. You know, and the fact that she can't do the physical things that she was able to do before, like that starts to weigh on you a little bit. You feel like you can't do anything. And so really. Continuing to nurse that back to health so that she can get back to doing the physical activity that she likes to do. And there's things that happen when we're physical with endorphins and with just the chemical things in our body, and it all ties together. I always say, if I'm not eating right, and if I'm not working out, then it's not that I'm trying to become like, beach body Jared or something like that.
Right.
It's just that you're trying to maintain that health. That keeps me mentally healthy. It keeps my mind clear and moving forward. And if I'm not taking care of my spiritual well-being, I see that start to affect other parts of my life and how it's all connected and intertwined. Yep.
And when you take care of yourself, it builds confidence. You have a better outlook on things, and so it's a good place to be. So real quickly, Valerie and I, the past 5.5 years, we traveled 10 months a year, which was one of the reasons I took this job, because we want to settle down a little bit and just not be in a different hotel every night. And so ironically, we have to move to Australia to settle down, but that's the plan. But what I figured out was, if you say, well, I'm going to sign up for a gym. Well, we couldn't sign up for a gym because we're never here. And you could find a gym, but in all these countries. So what I basically got down to is push-ups, sit-ups, planks, running, and stretching. And that was my workout routine. As long as I could do that, I'd be fine. I didn't need any equipment. I didn't have to worry about a membership. I didn't have to have all this stuff. And sometimes I think having a very specific workout routine with weights and all that gets in the way of, I can't make it to the gym today. It's not open yet. And so you skip it, and that's the worst thing you can do. So I'm a big fan of just keep it simple.
Then the guilt and shame come in, right? And then all of a sudden you're discouraged from doing it anyway.
Right.
So you wrote a really good story actually about you and your friends going on a trip, and I can't remember specifically which friend it was, but the alphabet workout. Could you tell us Tell me the story about the alphabet workout.
Yeah, so we were with a good friend of mine, James Toth is his name, and we grew up together. We known each other since 5th grade, and his wife, Missy, had discovered, I don't know where she found it, but she told us about it, and Valerie kind of picked it up and told me about it, and I put it in the book. So the alphabet workout is, you can, and I bet you can Google it and find it. Every letter is a different exercise. So, and you can assign it yourself or just go online and find it. But like an A is 10 push-ups, B is 10 sit-ups, C is maybe 5 squats, and it goes on and on and on. And so you now have all these exercises, and you can go online and just randomly generate a word. And once that word comes out, you have to do all the exercises of all the letters that are in the word. And it's a way, so some days, you're like, you generate the word, and you're like, cat. All right, this is an easy day. And then another day, it's like hippopotamus. Oh boy, this is going to be a tough workout. But it makes it just more fun, and makes it a little bit, putting a little fun into it and not just being serious all the time.
Yeah, it changes it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You actually have it on your website.
Oh yeah. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I forgot it was there.
You do, yeah. Yeah, you go to dancockerell.com/alphabet workout. Boom.
Okay, well,
It's
thanks
right
for
there. It's got
reminding me of
everything
that.
you need. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm just here to help. Oh, man. No, I think that's, for me anyway, that's why I don't like to run. There's a lot of people that are runners, and it clears their mind, and they think, I get bored when I run. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I out? It's not like I'm tired. I'm bored.
Right.
I played soccer in college and growing up and things like that. And you run a lot in soccer, but your mind is not fixed on running. It's fixed on where do I need to be and where's the ball and all of those different things, you know? So for me, finding routines that keep it fun and exciting and different, that's impactful for me. It's something that I was looking at it, and I'm thinking about giving it a shot, doing at least I can commit to it for like a month and see how I do, with the alphabet workout.
But just keep it interesting.
Yeah. And if you start with like small words like do.
Yes. Yeah. Or instead of starting with strong by design, just start with by. See how it goes.
There you go. Exactly. I could do it. Let's hear what I'm going to look it up. It's 12 push-ups and 30 crunches.
Okay.
No problem.
That's pretty good.
I can do that.
It's a good start.
All right, let's do it. I'm just kidding. As soon as we're done.
There you go.
I'm doing it. We're going to do strong by design. All right. So leading self is important. What about mental fitness? What do you do to keep mentally fit?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is mindset. And so there's no, I don't think I have a specific definition for mental fitness, but some of the things I practice and think about, there's a great book by Carol Dweck called Mindset, and it talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And there's been a lot of videos and TikTok videos and YouTube videos about this over the past few years. But a growth mindset basically says, I'm curious, I'm open-minded. If there's something new to try, I'm going to try it because I want to get better at it. I may not be good at it at the beginning, and I may fail, but by practicing and trying it, it's going to make me better. It's going to make me understand it more. I'm going to be vulnerable. And a fixed mindset basically says, I don't want to try new things because I'm not going to be good at them. And I don't want to look foolish doing these things, or I don't want to lose my confidence. So I'm just going to keep doing the things that I'm good at doing over and over again. And it's a choice. It's a choice you can make. They did some experiments with little kids in a classroom, and they gave them puzzles. They said, we'll give you a puzzle. And if you like the puzzle, you can come up and get another puzzle, or you can keep the puzzle you have. And during the course of the experiment, some of the kids came back and got a harder puzzle from the teacher, and some kids just kept putting the same puzzle together over and over again. And so quickly you could see which of the kids had a fixed mindset, which is, I'm going to stay in my box and I'm just going to keep doing this one puzzle. And then other kids were like, all right, I figured this one out. Do you have another one I can do, or a harder one, so I can, not get bored? And so that mental fitness thing is, I think if once you can get there, it really opens you up to try new things, being open to talk to strangers. And when you're open to talk to people, when you're open to new ideas, more opportunities come up. And I consider it a form of creating your own luck. You can become luckier by your mindset and by being open-minded and being wanting to learn new things and being curious. And so that piece of the mental fitness, I think, is really important. And it's, that ties into resiliency because we have ups and downs all the time. I can tell you, working at Disney in a really high-pressure job, big responsibility, there were good days and there were bad days that were really bad. And you have to learn how to bounce back from those and learn from those. And consulting, there was, some days were like, we don't have anything lined up next month. What are we going to do? How are we going to get paid? And then things would come together. So I think the more you put yourself in these uncomfortable situations, the more resilient you get, and the more you're willing to sort of go out there and take risks and do new things. Now they need to be calculated. You just can't go take these risks without thinking them through. But you're much more in control when you can do that, and you're less scared. You're not sitting at night worrying about things. Although I had plenty of those nights, but I think this growth mindset says, you know what? I got a real short life. I'm going to go try things. There's stuff I'm not going to be able to do, but I'm going to learn from it. It's going to be another experience I'm going to have, and that's going to just add to my life experiences. And I think it's kind of a hardy way to approach life.
Yeah, you can learn a lot more and have a lot more experiences by leaving the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by just staying at home and hoping that things are going to show up,
Right. Right. You got to go do things.
Sure. And obviously there's a balance there, but it's like throwing the seed, right? I can throw the seed on the ground. If I only throw it in one spot, either it works there or it doesn't work. But if I'm throwing seed in all over the place, well, now I can see where is it going to grow the best, and then you got to pick and choose. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of value in doing your best to throw it out there and see where it's gonna work.
Yeah, that's a great visual to help people think about.
So we have physical well-being. We're working on that. We're doing our alphabet workout. We have mental fitness. We're working towards mental fitness. We're reading Dan's book so that we can get more mentally strong. What about moral fitness? How does that play into you in your life?
Yeah. So the way I think about moral fitness, it really is, what are my values? What do I believe in? And then do I actually act out those values? Because values are really represented by actions and behaviors. Everyone always talks about what they believe in, and we see so much hypocrisy today. People, and a lot of politicians and some leaders, this is what I believe in. You say, great, I don't ever see you do any of that. And it's everyone, only you can decide what your values are. You can't let other people define those for you. You have to decide who you want to be, what you want your reputation to be, what you want to be known for. And then you have to hold yourself accountable to those things. So, you know what? I want to be a really good parent. Well, great. Do you get all your kids together and have dinner together every night? Or do you sit in front of the TV or let everyone go eat in a different place? I want to be known for supporting them. Well, great. Are you sitting down and talking to them about how they're feeling about things and helping them with their homework? I want to be a good spouse. Well, good. Do you empty the trash can without being asked? Do you remember your wedding anniversary? When you get frustrated, do you not take it out on your spouse? I want to be known for being accessible and approachable in my job. Okay, well, great. Are you getting out into your area? Are you talking to your employees? If they want to come meet with you, are you easy to meet with? So what do you want your reputation to be? What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to, kind of judge you on? Decide what those are, and then make a list of behaviors and ways you're going to bring that to life. And that's how I think about moral fitness.
Yeah. Sounds like integrity to me as you're talking. Like,
it's another way to talk about it.
Yeah. Am I doing what I say I'm going to do,
right,
whether anyone's looking or not,
Yeah, absolutely.
We try to teach that to
and you call that, I call it the gap.
That to our kids all the time.
Yeah. And talk to them about it all the time. And even when you don't think they're listening, they're listening. Keep talking about it. They're going to remember it. And it's, I have a concept I call the gap. It's what I want to be and what I'm doing to be there. And there's a gap. And am I closing that gap as much as I can? And some people, Their values are I'm gonna have integrity as long as people are checking on me. But the minute I'm not being held accountable, I'll do something differently.
Right.
And so it's to your point. I think that's really well. When no one's looking and no one knows, what do you do? And that kind of defines who you are. And you're the only person who can judge it, and you're the only person who'll know about that. So it's if you're waiting for other people to give you the thumbs up of you are who you should be, I think that's the worst thing you can do. Only you can define who you want to be.
Yeah. And if you list out all the words of these characteristics that you want to be, well, now you have a word for every day. Take it right back over to the old alphabet workout.
Oh my gosh, there's some serious synergy right there.
Yeah, there's so much, crossover with all of these things.
That's right. That's a strong design.
That's right. It's like it was made to be that way. Oh, so good. So we have. I love that leading yourself. I agree with you 100%. You lead from yourself. I mean, I've taught that for a long time. We believe that if you're not healthy and leading yourself well, how can you lead others well? And so when we always say, lead yourself, lead your family. If you're leading your family well, okay, well now you're ready to lead others, right? And I don't know if you're a faith guy or not, but that's definitely a scripture-based thing too. Where we say, lead your family first. If you can prove to lead your family, okay, well now you're equipped to lead others. And so definitely, I just love that. I fall right in line with that. So let's say I'm doing these things well. I'm leading myself well. I'm leading my family well. Now I'm ready. I'm ready to step out. I'm saying, okay, I think I'm being called and led to be a leader of other people. I know that you have leading teams and leading organizations. I was going to look specifically at leading teams. What are some highlights that you would share of what it takes to be a good leader when it comes to leading teams and other people?
Sure. So I guess a little bit of structure here. The first thing, and this is something that hit me years ago, is when you're leading a team, it's their success. And if they have teams reporting to them, it's their success. And so if you're not making everyone in your organization successful, now you may have 1 or 2 people reporting to you, you may have 10, they may have more. So the levels doesn't matter. But your job as a leader when you're in an organization is to make the organization successful. Get everyone to work towards the mission of the organization. And I think a lot of leaders get caught up in, well, as long as I can be the best leader and do my job well, that's all that counts. But what I learned at Disney, being at the Magic Kingdom, for example, I had 12,000 employees in my organization. And if my leadership wasn't translating to our guests having great experiences with frontline employees, because that's who they talked to. The guests had no idea who I was. They didn't care who I was. All they knew was I pull up at the Auto Plaza, is this person friendly and welcoming, and do they know what they're doing? Do they park my car safely? Do they drive the tram safely and talk to me? Do they answer my questions? And you can go through the hundreds of interactions you'd have with someone in a theme park or all the employees in a theme park. If my leadership was not making that better, then I wasn't doing my job. So at Disney, we, and like a lot of organizations, we did a 360-degree survey, right? So every year and eventually every 2 years, your boss would rate you, your peers would rate you, and your direct reports would rate you, and you'd get all this feedback. And I used to always flip to the page where my team, my direct reports, what do they think about my leadership? And after a couple of years, it hit me that, you know what? That's important, but what's more important is what the 6,000 to 12,000 employees think about their leadership, because they're the ones, once again, who are creating the magic. They're at the moment of truth for the guests. So this is, I think, something you need to think about as a leader when you go into a new job or you're running a department. It's not about you. Leadership is not about you. It's about your team, and it's about getting everyone aligned to the mission, whatever that mission is, whether it's creating magical memories for guests, whether it's creating exceptional student experiences if you're running a university, whether it's safely, if you're in law enforcement, keeping people safe. It's not about people. It's about the mission. And there's so much ego out there. People always tend to forget that. They build their little fiefdoms and do it. So that's a leading one. And then there's 4 other things I always think about. I'm constantly thinking about when I'm leading teams. First one is talent. Do I have the right talent on my team? Do I have the right people working around me Do we have the expertise we need? Do we have the right attitudes on the group? Do we have the right experiences? Do we have diversity of thought, diversity of experiences and ideas? Secondly, am I building relationships with everybody? Now that varies by culture. Living in France, you don't kind of get to know your employees really, really well because they're not there to become friends with someone they're working for. United States, it's a whole nother level, right? You really talk to your employees. And so it's different by culture, but do you have a respectful, trustful relationship with the people you're working with? Number 3 is setting clear expectations for performance. Do I know what it takes to be successful? It's like raising kids. Here's what time you have to be home. Here's what you can do. Here's how far out of the yard you can do if you're going to go outside and play. And employees and managers need to know what their expectations are. And then lastly is reward and recognition, which is reinforcing the right behaviors. When you see the behaviors that you're looking for, you reinforce that with money, with thank yous, with whatever you're going to do to reinforce that. A lot of times just people knowing they're doing a good job is enough. And some people want to put your money where your mouth is. Give me more money, or give me, buy me dinner, or whatever that is. So you get the right people on the team, you build relationships with them, you set clear expectations for performance, and you reward and recognize them when they do it well. That for me is what, that was my framework and my model for leading teams over my career.
That sounds like when you're cultivating a culture, and that's all of those things are impacting the culture that and the work culture that people are being a part of. I am curious, as a leader, if you're hiring people on, you're building your team, not necessarily from me being interviewed, but as the interviewer, do you have any do's and don'ts for a job interview?
Yeah, I'll talk about another great book by Carol Quinn, another Carol. She wrote a book called Motivation-Based Interviewing, and Valerie and I have used that. We've used it to consult with, and we really believe strongly in it. And she basically lays out when you're interviewing someone for a job, there's 3 things you're evaluating: skills, passion, and attitude. Those are the 3 big ones. Skills, at Disney, a lot of the employees they hire, you don't hire for skills, because we're going to teach you how to load Pirates of the Caribbean, or we're going to teach you how to work at Pecos Bills, or we're going to teach you how to load Rock and Roller Coaster. So we don't need you to have skills because we'll teach it to you. And that's the true for many, many jobs today. Number 2 is passion. Why do you want to work here? Why are you excited about working here? But the thing that she talks about, which we believe in really strongly, is the most important thing, is attitude. And the way we like to define attitude is people who have a great attitude, they're problem solvers. They overcome barriers. They're able to solve problems. And those are the people you want in your organization. So they don't come back with excuses of, I didn't have the right tools for the job, or it was really hard, or I don't know how to do that. People that have a great attitude figure things out. Think about Navy SEALs. They have a great attitude because they adapt and overcome. That's their motto: adapt and overcome. They're going to figure this out. And so when you're interviewing, if you can ask people about that, how do you solve problems? And there's some great interview questions in the book. I won't dive all the way into that, but if you can interview mainly for attitude, you're going to pick the right kind of people. Yeah. I don't know if you can teach attitude, but you certainly can raise the red flag when you're interviewing someone to figure out if they're more victims or they're really have an internal sense of wanting to get things done.
Yeah. We always say it's harder to teach. If someone has the right heart, it's easier to teach them skills. If they have the skills and no heart, it's really hard to,
I agree,
put the heart into somebody.
I agree.
Not that it's impossible, but it's a lot more challenging for sure.
Yep.
That's one. The business that I work for is not actually Strong by Design. It's Critical Bench, and the owner Mike always talks about hiring A++ people. And really taking your time during the interview process to hire the right people, because you're really, even though it takes more time, you're saving yourself in the long run from hiring the wrong people.
Oh, it's so true. Life gets so much easier when you have the A+ players around you. It's more fun. You have more success. They're happier. And you just got to be careful. Don't settle. Don't settle because you like somebody. Really look at how they're going to achieve the job and what they're going to do. And if you can figure that out, everything gets better. Because once again, it's not about you and your relationship with that direct report. It's their ability to work towards the mission of the organization. And that has to be the most important thing.
Yeah, I like that. So working at Disney, you must have had a lot of fun experiences. Is there any in particular experience that really just stands out that you're like, man, this was probably the coolest person that I met, or one of the most exciting things that we got to do because of my job at Disney was blank?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot.
There's a laundry list. And, the when we opened the gates on April 12th, 1992, and the first car drove through the Auto Plaza and I was standing there, I saw the first guest come in the park, and I knew that was a historical moment, and that was pretty cool.
You pulled out your iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I had a big radio brick back in the day. That was even before the Palm Pilot. I mean, that was way before.
Yep.
So
it's like the Zach Morris telephone.
Yes, exactly. Pulling up one morning at Disneyland Paris when I was working in parking, and there was a bus full of Germans who had driven all night and got there like 3 a.m, and they had their barbecues out, and they were out, barbecuing bratwurst and drinking big liters of beer before they went in the park. I thought that was an awesome day. Being at Epcot as the duty manager on December 31st, 1999, and at the stroke of midnight, looking at the park and hoping all the lights didn't go out because of the Y2K stuff. That was a pretty big moment. And then, being at Magic Kingdom on New Year's Eve, I mean, those were incredible moments just when you have, 60, 70,000 people in the park and all the fireworks going. But those were all fun stories and fun moments. But for me, it always came back to people, the stories, the stories, the people I worked with, the guests that came there, the incredible stories they had, meeting guests who said, this is my last trip to Walt Disney World because I'm terminally ill and I wanted to bring my family here before that ended. So much courage. The employees and the cast members who just would bend over backwards to figure things out for guests, because this weight of responsibility you have when you're wearing that Disney name tag, and watching them and how they got so emotional about this, and watching the guests and their expectations. And that was probably the thing I got to see almost every day, but it was pretty inspirational to be in an environment like that where everyone plays hard and works hard. And we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take our job extremely seriously because of the expectations the guests had because of that Disney brand. And it was a lot of fun. It was incredible. Every day I went into work, I was nervous. Am I going to be able to perform today? Am I going to be able to keep up with everyone else? It's a pretty intense job, but it's very fulfilling.
Sure. Did you ever have, obviously Disney's putting out movies and different things like that. Did you have celebrities come in that you thought, man, this was fun to be able to work with this individual? Or, I know I've seen, like, the one thing that pops out to me is, I don't know if you were there when this happened, but like Johnny Depp pretending to be Jack Sparrow, like in Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah. I heard that story. I don't know if that was at Disneyland or Walt Disney World that he did that, but there was lots of celebrities coming through. Most of the time, we had VIP services. They were taking care of them. And at Disney, we're not there to be awestruck. We're there to take care of everybody and do that. Sure. But one, I'll tell you a quick story that was kind of fun. So when I was at Disneyland Paris, I was working in guest relations. I was a frontline manager, and I got a call one morning, and my Valerie and I had a roommate, Alessandra, who's from Sicily, and we were at breakfast. The phone rang. I'm like, yep, okay, yep, all right, I'll be in. I'm like, I got to go. And they're like, what's going on? I said, well, we have a VIP today, wants to see the park before the park opens. They're like, who is it? I'm like, you know what? I can't tell you. It's confidential. I could have told them, but I just really wanted to. Yeah. So I go to the park and I get home that night. They're like, so who was it? Who was a VIP? I said, all right, here's the story. I said, I got to the park and I got a car. We used a car to transport. And I went to the front of the Disneyland Hotel. And it was the president of Euro Disney. At the time, it was Steve Burke. And the general manager of operations, Eric Paul, a Dutch guy, and Michael Douglas. and they were with him. And Michael Douglas really wanted to see Frontierland because Frontierland at Disneyland Paris is really awesome. They did a really great job. So I drove them into the park. They got it, did the tour. Michael Douglas didn't say a word to me because he was with the president. I was just a frontline manager. We get back to Disneyland Hotel, and I'm telling the story to Valerie and Alessandra, like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I said, Michael Douglas got out of the car, and he started walking towards the hotel, and he stopped, and he turned around, and he walked back to the driver's side window, and I rolled it down. I said, yes, Mr. Douglas, what can I do for you? He said, what's your name? I said, Dan Cockerell. He goes, have you ever thought about being in the movies, being an actor? I said, no, sir, I haven't. He goes, you should think about that. And he turned around and went into the hotel, and they're dying. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm like, all right, that whole story was true except the part when I talked to Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's fun though. I mean, I guess we're getting close to wrapping up here. My next question, now that you've been out of Disney for a little while, do you feel like as we keep moving, we're like storm rolling forward? And I know that there's a lot of different things that go on politically and things along those lines, but do you feel like the essence of who Disney was 20 years ago remains today? Or does it feel like it's altering a little?
Yeah, well, this is the classic one. When you're on the outside, you're like, well, it's not like when I was there. It's not as good as it was. And
right.
And I think the world has moved in a different direction. And politics, organizations now can't stay neutral. They have to get into the fray. And some organizations get caught up in that and some navigate it, but it's become much more complex. The world has come. And I think Disney continues. I think their values are still there. Figuring out how to execute that the right way on a regular basis is hard, and it's always hard. Being able to, and I know a few things. Like when I was for years, Disney was kind of a place where, if you're middle America, that everyone goes there. It's kind of a ritual. And today you look across the United States, you're like, can you afford to go there? It's become a very expensive place, but so is football games and baseball games. Everything's more expensive today. And the wealth gap is getting bigger. So I think not only is Disney navigating that, and they got to deal with, the creativity. Are they going to put out the right movies? Are they building the right attractions? All those things that come along with it. And with social media now, they're much more under a lot more scrutiny than when I was there.
Sure.
And at the same time, the world is progressing. So there's a lot of things that are much better at Disney than when I was there, and there's things that have changed that I don't think are as good. And that's just how things change, and that's how life moves on. But at the end of the day, the thing I always talked about when we would talk internally about whether we should make this decision or that decision, we decided, you know what? Customers, guests are going to vote with their dollars. You can talk all day long about what people say about you, and it looks from what I've seen is those parks are still packed. So no matter what people are talking about with politics and as the company changed everything, people are showing up in droves and they're paying a lot of money to be there. So that's for me the final test. As soon as people don't think they're getting the value, they'll stop going, and Disney will have to relook at that, and they'll continue to re-examine it. But people vote with their dollars, and if they show up, then they must value it.
Yep, I can tell you with 4 kids, the world is not set up for 4 children.
It is not. Yeah. Maybe 3 plus 2 parents.
Yeah.
2 parents and 2 kids, that's a great match because, table for 4, you can get that.
Yeah.
But you all are, you're definitely an outlier.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you can win this trip for a family vacation, but you only get to bring 2 of your children. So the other 2 have to stay home.
Yeah. That seems problematic.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So, well, thank you so much, Dan, for taking this time. I know you have a lot on your plate. You're getting ready for the big move and all of those things. But to take a little bit of time out to speak with me and to again, I love hearing your stories. I love, again, if you haven't gotten it, or if you've gotten this far and you haven't realized that he wrote this book, then there's probably something wrong with you because you haven't been listening to the podcast. But hey, go look at this book, How's the Culture in Your Kingdom? You can get it. I know you can get it on Amazon. Is there anywhere else you prefer them to buy it from?
Wherever you buy books, it's always nice to go to your independent bookstore and request it, give them a little business. But I know Amazon is so convenient. But wherever you buy books, and I'll plug my wife's book. Valerie wrote a book in October 2023, and it's called Manage Like a Mother, and Valerie Cockerell. So we each have a book now, and I think she's going to sell a lot more books than I did.
You're both real now.
Yeah, that's right. We know what we're talking about.
No, that's good. I love it. Yeah, I'll be sure to check that out as well. Maybe I'll chat with you. Maybe we can get her on as well if she wants to come, and maybe after you guys are settled in Australia, that'd be great. We can get her on the show.
That'd be great.
So thank you again, Dan. Appreciate you. Have a great trip, and please go. We'll make sure to put the link in our description below. So go check out his book, and blessings to you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.